my pals. How are you? It's a Sunday. The news was not all good today, I'm afraid. So while we're waiting for people to find the show, to tune in, we light a candle every time that we have a show, because we symbolizes lighting up the darkness in social media. If you appreciate what we do, please comment where you're tuning in from. Say hello, say a prayer. Anything you write in the comments signals to Facebook that we're doing something of value here. It's a conversation starter, and that helps the show reach more people in more places and light up the darkness better. So please put in the comments where you're tuning in from. Hit that like and love button. Tell Facebook we're doing something of value here. James Roth, tuning in from Indianapolis. Cindy Gray says, Shalom, Rabbi. Shalom, Cindy. I'm not a rabbi, though I'm acting as a teacher, but I don't have the title of rabbi. Rabbi means teacher, so in that sense I'm teaching, but I am not a clergyman. I'm not ordained as a rabbi. Hello, Cindy in Banning, California. Jean, lighting up the darkness, beautiful. Elaine says, Shalom from the UK, and we remember. Yes, so I have this sign right here, we remember, with the hashtag. Tomorrow, January 27th, is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we're working with our good friends at the World Jewish Congress. We've had a partnership with them for several years now. I think this is the third or fourth time that we're helping them to honor International Holocaust Remembrance Day by getting people to take photos of themselves with a hashtag We Remember sign. So if possible, during the show or after the show, take a picture of yourself like this with a little handmade sign, very simple, hashtag We Remember, put it in the comments or direct messages to us. We'll share it with the World Jewish Congress. And I think they're creating a video with, just lots and lots of people taking this image. So, share it on your own social media, a picture of yourself with the We Remember sign, because we remember. I mean, how could we forget? But it's actually unbelievable how young people are forgetting and don't know how many millions of people were slaughtered in the Holocaust. 70 years ago. To young people, it seems like, unimaginable ages before their time. They don't care. And we have to be that generation in between, transmitting the memory, the terrible, terrible memory of the Holocaust to the next generation. So please take a picture of yourself, put it in the comments, put it on your social media with the hashtag We Remember, put it in the picture, put it in your actual hashtag in the header of your picture, and spread the word. Tomorrow, the 27th of January, is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Here in Los Angeles, we had terrible news this morning. Terrible. Kobe Bryant, such a young man, 41 years old, a real hero in Los Angeles sports. If it's not your thing, he was a very, very famous and great basketball player, played for the Los Angeles Lakers, helped them win 5 championships. And this morning he was killed in a helicopter crash, tragically, with 4 other people, one of whom was his 13-year-old daughter. The city Los Angeles is quite broken up right now. Memorials are starting up all over town, at the Staples Center where the Lakers played, near the site in the valley up in Calabasas where the helicopter went down. People don't know what caused the helicopter to crash at this point. But we all remember, if we were in LA, even if you weren't a big basketball fan, I mean, the Lakers brought this city together. And Kobe was such a big star, and he had highs and lows on the court and off the court. But, this was a guy who at this point in his life was very dedicated to his family, was dedicated to doing good in the community and working with children. And to be cut off so tragically young at just 41 years old, it's This is going to be one of those days that for a lot of people in LA and around the world, they're going to remember where they were and what they were doing when they heard that Kobe Bryant, at 41 years of age, died in a plane crash. I never met him. I wasn't, such a big Lakers fan. I came from New York. I'd become a Dodgers fan. But as far as football is concerned, I'm still with the New York Giants. And nevertheless, I'm a longtime resident of LA, and I really feel the grief and the sadness of this city. And let's dedicate our learning today to Kobe Bryant and to his memory and all the good that he was doing in the community for young people, and teaching them, that with drive and determination, you can really accomplish your dreams. All right, we've been studying the first book of the Talmud. So AT Daily is our daily show, tracking the 7.5-year Daf Yomi cycle. We're now starting our 4th week of AT Daily. Today we're studying page 23 of Berachos. We're in the 3rd chapter. And so far, this whole tractate has been about reciting the Shema, the conditions that sort of surround our daily recital of the basic prayer of God's unity, and then many related blessings and prayers, how we handle it, what time we can pray, what time we cannot, what to do if we're interrupted, and lately, other kinds of obstacles to fulfilling our obligation to take on the yoke of heaven by declaring God's unity twice a day. But what happens if we're in a location where it is inappropriate to pray? Why would it be inappropriate? Because we're next to a toilet, right? Or heaven forbid, we're next to actual filth, right? So whether it's filth or unseemliness, these kinds of things have the potential to degrade the prayer, and so our sages say we don't pray under these conditions, and that's what we're looking at, and how do we handle these situations. So we've been talking, just at the end of yesterday, we mentioned that, if you're praying in a place, let's say you were going to do it outside, and it turned out that there was filth on the ground near you, whether it was solid, human waste, or liquid human waste, you have to distance yourself from that at least 4 cubits and face away from it. Now we're continuing this discussion, and we're actually looking at the idea that what if you have the urge to go to the bathroom while you're praying? So you're distracted because you have to go. This is an actual problem. And the teaching that you need to have your concentration whole when you are declaring God's unity, when you are praying. And by the way, let's just make this distinction. When we're in the Talmud, in sort of American English, when we say praying, it's a kind of general term for all different kinds of prayers. We are praying. But in the Talmud, if we're talking about prayer, without any other specification, the sages mean something quite specific by that. They mean the prayer. And the prayer is the thrice daily, 3 times a day, requirement to say the Amidah, which means the standing prayer, also called the Shemona Esrei, the 18, or the 18 blessings. So this was a prayer that was sort of put together. It took some time for it to reach its final form, but it was put together by the sages. It's 18 blessings that we're meant to say 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. And that prayer replicates the prayer of our sages who instituted these prayers. Which? I think Jacob was the evening prayer, Abraham was the morning prayer, and Isaac was the afternoon prayer. They added these 3 prayers. It's attributed to them. So when we're talking about praying or the prayer, we're talking about the Amidah. Reciting the Shema, which is required morning and evening. This is also called taking on the yoke of heaven, right? Declaring God's unity and sovereignty in our lives, and also taking on the yoke of the commandments, right? So we have to fulfill those obligations. They're separate obligations, but they're often grouped together because there's a lot of similarities in what will interfere with prayer, but they're not the same because the Shema, declaring God's unity, that's a Torah obligation, and reciting the 18 blessings is a rabbinic obligation. It's a sin to, neglect to do either one, but they have slightly different stringencies because the source of them is different. Okay, so when we talk about this, what happens if you have an urge to go to the bathroom, right? Whether it's number one or number two, the fact that you would feel that need and then try to pray anyway is problematic for the sages. And their source for that is actually a verse from Amos, the prophet Amos, or Amos. And so Amos chapter 4 has the line, "Prepare to meet your God, O Israel." Amos was kind of like an archetypal prophet, right? He's considered one of the minor prophets, but his prophecy it was a beautiful prophecy, the book of Amos. It's in the Bible, and he was prophesying near the end of the first temple period, a little bit before Isaiah, and so there was, generally peace in the kingdom, but the people were not conducting themselves properly. So it was not that the fear wasn't that they were at war with other kingdoms, but the problem was twofold. The people were, number one, neglecting the poor. So Amos says, you can't consider yourselves a holy people if you look the other way when there's needy people among you. Taking care of the poor, the widow, the orphan. These are obligations of a holy people, and if you're ignoring them, so you're going to lower yourself in God's eyes, right, as an individual and as a people. And the other problem was abominations, right, that the people were running after idolatry. Like, for example, in the northern kingdom, after Israel split into Judea and the northern kingdom of Israel, after King Solomon, right? So his son was a very poor king, created tremendous problems, and then half of the kingdom broke away, and that became the northern kingdom of Israel with its own king and a separate government. Because the kingdom was now two kingdoms, and the northern kings feared that the people would remain loyal to the king in Judea, in Jerusalem, in the southern kingdom. So they didn't want people making the 3 times a year pilgrimages to bring sacrifices in the temple in Jerusalem. And so they prevented that. But then they thought, well, the people will rise up against us if they can't bring sacrifices and be close to God. So they created an alternative place, a totally, unholy, illegal, in terms of scripture, place to bring sacrifices and to connect with God. And of all things, what did they use to symbolize, the place, the nexus between heaven and earth where the people could connect with God? A golden calf. I mean, it's insane that they would think that was okay after the experience that we had. By then it had been 800 years. It was 800 years later that, since the exodus from Egypt and being at Mount Sinai and waiting for Moses to come back, and the people made a golden calf, and obviously it went terrible. It was a terrible, terrible outcome for the people. And now, many, many years later, centuries later, the kingdom splits, and the northern kingdom, these kings tell their people, so we're going to have golden calves. It's in the Torah. We see golden calves in the Torah. So they just got it wrong last time, and we're going to get it right. Please bring your sacrifices, to the temple with the golden calf. And there was one in Bethel and another in Dan. Craziness, right? Just absolutely crazy. And so the prophet Amos was saying, hey, no, you've got it all wrong. And if you keep behaving this way, you're going to lose the land. And sure enough, the northern kingdom was lost much sooner than the southern kingdom, much sooner than Judea. And those are called the lost tribes of Israel when the northern kingdom fell. At any rate, Amos was prophesying. He was prophesying to these people. He was saying, be careful of the poor and don't go after idolatry, don't have abominations like these golden calves. And why? Because, God sees everything, God cares. And eventually, if you behave properly, we'll have a paradise on earth. And if you behave wrong, you're going to lose everything that we've got. And in sort of making that prophecy, one of the things he said was, prepare to meet your God, O Israel. Our sages use that line, prepare to meet your God, O Israel, to be the source for the idea that anytime you're going to meet God, right? And it doesn't have to be in the times of the Messiah or in a time of revealed miracles, but anytime you're going to pray, anytime you're going to engage in prayer in a synagogue or at home, you need to prepare, to be ready for that. And one of those aspects of preparation is you shouldn't need to go to the bathroom, right? So before you pray, okay, I'm going to pray now. It's my time of day to pray. Before you do that, you think to yourself, do I need to go to the bathroom? And the sages actually say, get up and walk around so you'll know if you need to go to the bathroom. And if you need to go, so you go, and then you pray, so that you won't be in the situation of trying to pray and be needing to go and be all distracted that way. Because our sages actually say that one who prays while he or she is having an urge to go to the bathroom, so that prayer is not a prayer. In fact, it's an abomination, right? It's because you're like all consumed with the needs of your body and not having that opportunity to connect with the Creator. So simple takeaway, before you pray, ask yourself, do I need to go to the bathroom? And if you do, go. The only exception to that is if your urge is very light and you could walk a parsang without having to go. You could restrain yourself for the amount of time that it takes to walk a parsang. What is a parsang? It's a distance related to the Roman mile, which seems to be a little less than a mile. But people walk slowly, whatever the way you actually break it down. The idea is if you could hold it in for about an hour to an hour and a half, okay, so then your urge is not that great, so then you can pray now. But if you think you're going to need to go sooner than that, so go, vacate, evacuate yourself, right? And then pray so that you will not be distracted. Okay, another thing, so some of these rules that apply to prayer, to reciting the Shema, to doing the daily prayer, also apply to the tefillin. My tefillin is in the house, it's not here, but as I mentioned often and have shown you on my show before, if it's the black straps, right? So the black box that you put on your arm next to your heart with a strap around your arm, and the one you put on your forehead, and then the straps come down around your neck. And those contain pieces of parchment with words written on them. What words? Actually, the words of the Shema prayer, where it's written that you will bind these words as a sign upon your hand, and it shall be a symbol before your eyes. So the tefillin are very holy objects with holy words embedded inside. We do not wear tefillin when we go into the bathroom, right? So if you're praying in the morning and the urge comes on you, so you're going to have to interrupt your prayer session to go to the bathroom, you take the tefillin off. And you have to take it off, at least 4 cubits away from the entry to the bathroom. So there was a problem. First of all, people in the ancient times, Torah scholars especially, they would wear their tefillin all day long. Not at night when they would sleep, but during the day they would. Today we only wear it during the prayer session in the mornings. They're not on Shabbat. So if you're wearing your tefillin, you take it off when you go to the bathroom. But in those old days, so this was like all the time this came up, right? Anytime they had to go to the bathroom, they were wearing their tefillin, and now they got to put it somewhere. So at first the instruction was, okay, so you put it, in a receptacle outside the bathroom area, right? And, their plumbing was different than ours. Sometimes a bathroom was, like a place with a hole in the ground where things go. more in the city, right? And sometimes it was just an area kind of out near the town dump where people would just go outside, to evacuate themselves. And if they couldn't be wearing the tefillin while they were out there or, inside the bathroom in an urban place, where would they put the tefillin? They weren't always it wasn't always so convenient to leave the tefillin in a safe place and then go to the bathroom. So they would kind of stash it in some kind of public area near the bathroom, but not in the bathroom. But that led to the tefillin being stolen. Or even worse, there was an incident where a young Torah scholar left his tefillin there, and for some reason, while he was going to the bathroom, a prostitute grabbed his tefillin, went to the study hall where the other Torah scholars were, and I guess she was basically trying to, get a ransom, get some money for them. And so she said, well, one of the owner of this tefillin came to me, engaged my services, and then left this as a security for a payment. So now I'm here and I want to get the payment. And this was, so false and devastating and humiliating for a Torah scholar who would never go to a prostitute. That the way his reputation was harmed was so awful for him that he ended up killing himself. Either literally just threw himself off a roof, or was sort of up there and despondent and lost track of his surroundings and fell off the roof. Either way, it was a terrible incident and a guy died because of this. And so the sages instituted that, okay, so with tefillin, even though we have to be very careful of not taking them into a place of filth, you don't want to be separated from your tefillin in a situation where they could get stolen. So they created a special, dispensation for what you could do, which is when you go to the bathroom, you take the tefillin off, wrap it up tight, put some kind of a bag or cloth around it, so to respect it, so that it would take it with you into the bathroom. It was not on you, and it was guarded and it was kept safe, but you wouldn't leave it out in a public place where it could be stolen or hijacked, as it were, like it was by that prostitute. And this leniency, right, a leniency of taking tefillin into the bathroom for the sake of practical security did not apply to, for example, books. So if you have a holy book, you don't take that into the bathroom. You have to find some place to stash it, even though you might lose it, because you don't dishonor the Word of God by taking it into the bathroom. And still today, if you like to read while you're in the privy, so you don't read scripture, right? You don't read words of holiness while you're in the privy. Stick to sports magazines and financial news. Okay. Also, when we're praying, because we want prepared to meet your God, O Israel, you can't be distracted, right? So you don't hold things in your hand while you're reciting Shema or praying. And this covers everything from tefillin themselves. The tefillin need to be on you, not in your hand. You wouldn't hold a Torah scroll in your arm. You wouldn't hold a weapon in your arm. You wouldn't hold food in your arm. Because any of these things, which are significant, if you're trying to pray and hold on to this thing, you'd be distracted. Your mind wouldn't be in it. So it is prohibited to hold things in your hands while you are praying. If you go to daily services, like on Monday and Thursdays in an Orthodox minyan, so the Torah is being read. And other kinds of minyans as well, just any observant Jewish minyan. On Monday and Thursday, the Torah is read in the morning. And the custom is that after the Torah reading, somebody is holding the Torah. It gets wrapped up and he's holding it, and he holds it for a little while a few extra prayers are said. So we've already done Torah reading. We're not doing Shema or the prayer, but we would be saying the Ashrei, which is a psalm, Psalm 145. And so one guy is holding the Torah while he's reciting Ashrei. And I assume that this is telling us that, you don't say Shema, you don't say Shmona Esrei while holding a Torah. He can say the Ashrei while holding that Torah because he's doing it on behalf of the congregation. He has a job to do. He's sitting while he's doing it, even though he's holding a Torah scroll. And that's how that has been worked out. Right? So generally, you're praying, don't have stuff in your hands. Okay, on the subject of going to the bathroom. Again, bathrooms, they didn't have, private spaces the way that we do. In the ancient times, often it was just an open space outdoors or a very public kind of urban bathroom. So while you were going to the bathroom, whether it was number one or number two, you obviously have to uncover yourself in order to do your business, but you want to uncover as little as possible. Obviously, you have to uncover, do your thing, and not get your clothing soiled, right? So you will uncover as much as necessary to do your business and not, spill anything or stain your clothing, but no more. And so what the sages are saying is don't unnecessarily, expose yourself, even among people of the same gender, even in what's normally a private space. In a locker room, for example, I would say they would be saying, okay, you need to change, so you change. But don't hang out in the locker room. Right? I remember that movie, Jerry Maguire, and the actor Cuba Gooding, the character was saying that he likes to air dry. And he's just, walking back and forth in all his nakedness. And, I get the philosophy, hey, I'm not ashamed, I'm proud, etc. But for the sages, nudity is a very private matter. It's something, for the husband and wife to enjoy each other and not for other people. They were not nudists. They were very against nudism. And so they were just very private, right? So the idea that even when you're going to the bathroom, you're going to reveal as little as possible, then certainly, generally speaking, you're going to reveal as little as possible. And that's why modesty is such a big issue. And you see in very observant communities, they're not going to the beach. They're not hanging out in bikinis. I mean, they are going to the beach, but they're not hanging out in bikinis. And they're going to really be very careful about what people reveal of themselves. Okay. And this idea of checking yourself, do you need to go to the bathroom before you pray, actually also applies to mealtime. I thought this was interesting. This was a news to me. It makes sense. It's common sense, right? Before you sit down to dinner, you should ask yourself, hey, do I need to go to the bathroom? So I'm going to be comfortable at dinner. It's just common sense, but it is also a halacha. It's a law, right? So it's a law from our sages that before you sit to eat, you should get up, walk around a little bit, check in with yourself. Do I need to go to the bathroom? If yes, you go. And when you think about, when you think about kids, right, who just don't think about what's going on, they just sit down, they start dinner, pop up, they got to go to the bathroom. We want to outgrow that sort of behavior, right? And we don't want to interrupt meals, neither for ourselves, because we should enjoy the food before us, nor for our companions at the meal. Obviously, if the urge comes on you while you're eating, you get up and you go. But you're just trying to avoid that. And so the halacha is before you sit to a meal, check in with yourself. Do I need to go to the bathroom? And if so, go do it. That's it. Those are the things that I wanted to cover from page 23 of Berachos, our first tractate of the Talmud today. I think the takeaway, the theme in these matters, the takeaway is number one, understand the sages are looking at bodily functions just the way they look at everything else, right? How to pray, when to pray. Eventually we'll talk about how to observe holidays, how to keep kosher, how to blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah, the things we typically associate with religious practice. But for the sages, everything. every aspect of life is potentially a matter of doing God's will, right? So there is just a holy way to live. And we're going to be studying it, and that's why we're paying attention to it, sort of one matter a day over these 7.5 years. So it's not that it should be paralyzing and you should always be thinking, I don't know what to do and I don't know what to do and I didn't figure it out. And the point is that over time you develop knowledge of what you're supposed to do if you're a Jew. And if you're not a Jew, a lot of these principles apply to non-Jews as well. But this idea that you want to elevate your whole existence and live in a manner that is consonant with being, a prized child of the Creator, right? He cares about us and he's giving us an opportunity to elevate our lives in every aspect of our lives, right? And we're not covering this right now, but somebody actually just asked me, I had a question, a private question. It was a beautiful question. It was a member of our community who had a relative, a very dear relative, who had serious health challenges involving the kidneys. Over time, lost the function of one, and then both kidneys, was on dialysis, and eventually got a kidney transplant and recovered. But going through that whole experience with a family member, the person who reached out to us said, they're very grateful every time they go to the bathroom. They just learn to be grateful, like them and their siblings and the other parent. And they're just grateful every time they go to the bathroom, and it's normal. And so they got into the habit of, as they go to the bathroom and everything's going normally, to say thank you to God while that's happening, and asked me, is that appropriate? And I said, well, actually, the thought that you're grateful is beautiful. Hang on to that. It's spectacularly beautiful kind of gratitude. But what you can try to do is, instead of saying thank you to God, while you're still in the bathroom and in the presence of, the filth that is coming out, just wait a moment until you get out of the bathroom. Because now you're talking about an important and established practice that we have a blessing, a specific blessing we say when we leave the bathroom. I wasn't prepared to do this right now. I just have it memorized and I say it in Hebrew, but essentially what that blessing is, I wonder if I should just open it up in a book so I'm not fumbling to recall the proper translation. But it's right at the beginning of any daily prayer book. This is Tehillas Hashem. This is the prayer book put out by the Chabad movement. But this blessing is in the beginning of every Jewish prayer book. And so in the morning when you would get up, the first thing you do is wash your hands, do a ritual washing of the hands. And then you've probably gone to the bathroom during the night. And now that you've washed your hands, now you're ready to say a blessing in the morning. And the blessing you say is, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has formed man in wisdom and created within him numerous orifices and cavities. It is revealed and known before the throne of your glory that if but one of them were to be blocked or one of them were to be opened, it would be impossible to exist even for a short while. Blessed are you, Lord, who heals all flesh and performs wonders. Isn't that beautiful? Imagine if you could cultivate a real gratitude where it's not just a rote blessing, but that you feel the kind of gratitude that this person reached out to us and said they feel that gratitude because they've seen what happens when somebody loses those functions. So you should really feel gratitude every time you go to the bathroom and everything is normal. And then when you leave the bathroom, because we don't say blessings in the bathroom, same kind of teaching as what we've been saying all day, so you would say that blessing after you leave. That's called Asher Yatzar, Asher Yatzar, the one who forms, right? The one who forms the body with great wisdom. It has openings and passageways, and if one of these were to be blocked, that's supposed to be open, or one of them is open, that's supposed to be closed, then your health is all totally screwed up. You can't think about anything else, and life is a completely different proposition, as we all know. So, developing the habit, if you're not doing it already, of doing the Asher Yatzar blessing when you leave the bathroom, it's a beautiful way to have a mind-body spiritual connection. And if you just Google Asher Yatzar, A-S-H-E-R, Yatzar, Y-A-T-Z-A-R, Asher Yatzar. There's many sort of like printouts that you can just print, cut out, tape to the wall near the bathroom. And it's a very, very beautiful spiritual practice. Cindy Gray says, I just read about Israelis now have the ability to rejuvenate kidneys, a new breakthrough, Baruch Hashem. Beautiful, 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 right? So much new technology is coming out of Israel, and we're very grateful. We're talking about purifying water, regenerating organs, giving people who are paralyzed the ability to walk. There's amazing medical technology coming out of Israel every day. Okay. Ooh, Eliza is talking about her tickle. Affords me a lot of comfort even amongst other women. I have the mitzvah of tznius. I don't understand why people think modesty is oppressive. So Eliza's talking about a hair covering. This is so interesting. I think some people who don't have religious observance in their lives look at people who are really trying to put observance in all aspects of their lives and think, well, those people are crazy. They're brainwashed. They're oppressed. And maybe one area where this kind of misunderstanding comes up is in the commandment to cover our heads, right? So men cover their heads with a hat. There's my kippah. Right? I usually am wearing a hat, but it's the kippah that, is the must, right, for men. And Jewish women, quite observant Jewish women, it's not certainly universal in the Jewish world, will cover their heads, right? And there are many different ways there's a lot of complexities and subtleties about how women cover their heads. Some will wear a hat, some will do a scarf, some will let hair show, some won't let any hair show, some will wear wigs. There's just a lot of different ways to observe that. And it's something that every woman and every person has to decide for themselves how they're going to do it. But the general principle of tznius, as Eliza's pointing out, of modesty, right? Of modesty. Of saying some things are private, some things are between me and God, some things are between me and my spouse. It ends up creating a general mindset of care, of attention, of taking oneself seriously that can be very, very beneficial. We'll leave it for another day to really explore that topic. It's a fascinating topic. And Judy Gruen wrote a book about her journey to becoming an Orthodox woman called The Rabbi and the Skeptic, which is really beautiful. And for her, so many of these practices came natural and easy, were so spiritual, and covering her head was one that was very difficult for her for a long time. And she has a whole chapter on that in her book. It's quite interesting. Judy Gruen, The Rabbi and the Skeptic. All right, my pals, great to share Talmud with you today. Remember, we've got the hashtag sign, We Remember tomorrow, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We want to be really, really aware that the Holocaust was not that long ago. It really was not that long ago, just 75 years. And, it's fresh in our minds, and it needs to stay fresh in our minds so that these atrocities do not repeat. And here in LA, we are, as a city, mourning the loss of Kobe Bryant, the sports hero, killed today in a helicopter crash at just 41 years of age, and with his 13-year-old daughter, Gigi, in the chopper. We're just very sad about that. We're sending you lots of love. May tomorrow be a brighter day with more joy and more meaning and health and joy and prosperity for all of you. Sending love from LA.